All right, today we're going to look at how to calculate someone's net pay. We'll give this person, this employee, a name. We'll call them just a first name. They're kind of like, you know what I mean? Like 50 Cent or Madonna or something like this. They're like a celebrity. They just go by one name. Just Carter. Okay. It says pay begin date, pay end date. So this is August 17th to August 23rd of the year 2011. Could you tell me how often this person gets paid just by looking at those dates? It's weekly. So how many checks would they get in a year if they get paid every week? 52. Nice. You may also notice that it says weekly here and weekly down here. Is that all right? We have the EI rate and the CPP rate. So the EI rate, I think I was using orange for the CPP, and I was using teal for the EI rate. Now, the current EI rate, employment insurance rate, is 1.63%. The current CPP, so we're close here, but the current Canada Pension Plan contribution rate is 5.95%. So this is a little off. But again, these rates change annually as well. The first thing we want to do is we want to calculate that CPP contribution. So down here, or somewhere on your loose leaf, write down CPP. I think there's space under your pay stub to do this. To figure out the Canada Pension Plan contribution, it's a three-step process. This person would be under the threshold for the enhanced CPP. They're only getting paid $500 a week. So what's the number that I use in step one? What's the allowable exemption? Anyone remember what this number was? $3,500. Wicked. $3,500. And you divide it by the number of paychecks the person gets. In this case, what? 52. If they got paid bi-weekly, you divide by 26. If they got paid semi-monthly, you would divide by 24. And if they got paid monthly, you would divide by 12. Anyone remember what 3,500 divided by 52 was? $67.31. What do I do with that number? How does step two work?
Excuse me.
Yes.
For you, Martin, would you?
I do.
In the office of Mary Lee?
Sure. What do I do in step two? I take the gross earnings. What are the gross earnings? $500. And I subtract the $67.31, the answer you get in step one. $500 minus 67.31 gives you $432.69. Now, what do I do with that number? What do I do with the 432.69? I multiply it by something. Think about what we're finding here. We're finding the Canada Pension Plan deduction or contribution. 0.0525. Where's that number coming from? Talon is 100% correct. 0.0525. That was just the CPP rate expressed as a decimal. 5.25 divided by 100 would give me 0.0525. And when I do that calculation, I get $22. And are you okay with me rounding that to 72 cents? And where do I put that number, 22.72? In which box on the pay stub? Next to the CPP, $22.72. The next thing I'm going to find is the employment insurance contribution. So step 2. This is not a 3-step calculation. It's not a multi-step calculation. I just take my gross earnings, $500, and I multiply them by the employment insurance rate, expressed as a decimal. I believe it was 1.63%. Is that correct? So what would that be as a decimal? 0.0163. Is it 163 or 62? 62. Thank you. And what do I get there? What's 500 times 0.0162? 8.1. How would I write that in terms of money? Dollars and cents. 8.10. That's right. $8.10. So that's how much they are going to take off my paycheck. And they're going to put that in the employment insurance pool. And I'd be able to collect that if I was ever between jobs. All right, I'd be able to draw from the employment insurance. Realize that they're taking money off every working adult's paycheck. So I have CPP and EI. Make a little note here that when you're doing CPP and EI, which figure was I using? The gross earnings. Okay, that's important. Because when it comes to federal and provincial, I don't use the gross earnings. I use something called the taxable gross. All right. Does anyone remember how to get the taxable gross? I need to figure out the before tax deductions first. Okay. How do I figure out the before tax deductions? So step 3. Your before tax deductions. You're just going to look at that section of the pay stub. And in this case, there's only union dues and pension. Sometimes there's medical, sometimes there's dental, sometimes there's Canada Savings Bonds. But in this case, just 2 union dues and pension. And I just add those up. Union dues plus pension. What were the union dues? 25. How much are they contributing to the pension? $89. 25 plus 89 gives me a total of $114. Okay, you don't really need to show that down here. 25 plus 89 equals 114. Could have been done right up here. Here's the $114. I just added those up. Now, how do I get this amount right here? This is something that we learned yesterday. How do I figure out the taxable gross? Off what? Off my gross. That's wicked. So the taxable gross, thank you very much, is equal to your gross earnings, in this case $500. And I'm going to subtract, are you okay if I just abbreviate this? What's BTD stand for? It's the before tax deductions. And my gross earnings were $500. And I'm subtracting my before tax deductions, which are $114. And that should give me $386. $386. Now this $386 is what I'm going to use to figure out the federal and provincial tax deductions. Okay, federal and provincial tax deductions, that's more money that they take, the government takes off your gross earnings, and it's to contribute to healthcare, education, roads, infrastructure, a host of social programs. So the 386, I'm going to fill that in this box right here. So we're getting there. Eventually, I'm working my way to the net pay. In order to get the net pay, I have to figure out these two amounts. Now, when you're figuring out the federal and provincial amounts, so we'll go federal first. It doesn't really matter. But if I'm looking for the federal deduction, okay, I need to know my taxable gross. What was that? That's what we just found in step 4. $386. I need to know my claim code. We haven't discussed that yet, but we talked about them yesterday. And I need to know the number of checks I am receiving. How often did this person get paid? Every week, and they were getting 52 checks. Fair? What's the claim code? If I look back up here at this pay stub, there's the claim code right there. It's claim code 3. That is something that is determined between the employer and the employee. Now, to figure out how much they're going to take in federal tax, I have to go to my PDF files. Okay, you can find them online, or you can find them in our team. So if I go to the period 2 team, I go to the shared folder. Glitches out on me. Try it again. I'll go to the shared folder. And I'm looking in these federal and NB tax deduction tables. Open that one. Now, there's 4 files there. How do I know which one to open? The one that says 52 pays, because they're getting paid weekly. I'd use 26 pays if they were getting paid bi-weekly, and I'd use 24 if they were getting paid semi-monthly, and 12 if they're getting monthly. Now it's going to start. I'll zoom this in. It's going to start with the federal tax deductions. Okay? The first column is the taxable gross amount. And then it goes claim code 0, claim code 1, 2, and 3. All the way up to 9. We're looking for claim code 3. So I got to scroll down this until I find the taxable gross. Do you remember what the taxable gross was? 386. Okay. So this is like 384 right to 386. This goes 386.01 to 388. Use the first one. Okay. So 386. And do I just go 1, 2, 3? Is it the 920 that I'm taking off? No, Marina, right. I got to go all the way over to the 2.4 or 240. Why? Yeah, it's claim code 0, claim code 1, claim code 2, claim code 3. So there's no real calculation. You just have to find the information. So how much are they taking in provincial tax? 240. This amount is equal to, sorry, not 240, $2.40. That'd be a racket if they took 240. So I put 240 here, 2.40. Now to figure out the provincial amount, I do the same thing. I use all of this information right here. The taxable gross is still 386, the claim code is still 3, and they're still getting paid weekly. To figure out how much I'm going to pay in provincial tax, I am going to go back to my table, which is in Teams, and I just scroll down. So these are all still federal tax deductions. Wait for the heading to change to New Brunswick tax deductions, and then do the same thing. So here's New Brunswick tax deductions. It starts on page 7, and I'm looking for a taxable gross of 386. So I got to keep scrolling. Here, 386 would be between 385 and 389. Claim code 0, claim code 1, 2, 3. How much are they taking? $9.30. So in order to figure out the federal and provincial tax deductions, look to the PDF files that are in Teams. So you'll need your device in order to do this. $9.30 goes here. I want to know the total. And they call this box taxes. It's federal and provincial taxes, CPP and EI. They're all deductions. They're all coming off your gross pay. So I'm going 2.40 plus 9.30 plus 22.72 plus $8.10. $42.52 for the total. And then how do I figure out the net pay? Anyone know how to fill out the net pay? Couple ways you could do it. You could start with your gross earnings and subtract your before tax deductions, and then subtract your total taxes, $42.52. That would give you your net pay. Another way some people do it, they start with the taxable gross and they just subtract the total taxes. Okay, that kind of eliminates that first step. 500 minus 114 leaves you at 386. So step 7, you can write this down. Net pay is equal to your gross earnings minus the before tax deductions minus your total taxes. Now your total taxes is the sum of your federal and provincial taxes and your CPP contributions and your EI contributions. Who remembers what this number was? Gross earnings. It's on your sheet in front of you. $500 minus, who remembers what the before tax deductions were? I do. 114. What's the total taxes? Anyone have that figure written down so I don't have to scroll back up? $42.52. Thank you very much. Do you understand why some people would go taxable gross instead of writing gross earnings minus before tax deductions minus taxes? Like some people start, this right here is really the taxable gross. So they would start with the 386. They wouldn't subtract the 114. And if I go 500 minus 114 minus 42.52, I get $343.48. What does this represent? That is the net pay. That is what Carter takes home. So how much did they earn? They earned $500. That's the gross pay. How much do they take home? They only take home $343.48. The government is taking $156 on them and 52 cents. Okay? But don't forget that they're going to be able to collect Canada Pension Plan someday when they hit 60. That's the earliest you can draw. They may use employment insurance if they ever lose their job or you're between jobs. And obviously, they're going to benefit from healthcare and education and all of these, where this money goes to. Roads and infrastructures, maybe they'll have a new multiplex to use someday, a nice facility in their hometown. So the net pay was $343.48. You'll notice I've nixed these other boxes. One of them, I think, said total taxes, like that would just be this number plus this number, or total deductions. 343.48. Those, or that is what Carter's bringing home. All right? That's an example of starting with gross pay, examining a pay stub, and calculating the person's net pay, which is what you have to do on your homework sheet. I'll pause the video, post it on YouTube.